Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to help you get the Zettelkasten of your dreams on your work table beside you. Well, we are working on a new series for parents on the question of introducing a Zettelkasten to your child, at what age and by what methods. And this is a very speculative series where we're pooling our ideas and throwing out some concepts for consideration. Because as it turns out, even though comments are pouring in, we don't have any big experts in this. So this is really just idea seeking, idea generating. Well, I printed out the comments from the first two episodes, and I have got a lot to share with you. So I thought I would do that and invite you to participate in the conversation because it's really waking up. And I think we're getting some exciting things going on. We have a broad range of people. We have parents, we have grandparents, we have PhD students, we have PhDs teaching at the university level, school principal, all the way through. We have some tremendous range of people with a great interest in the Zettelkasten, and I think you'll enjoy some of the comments that are coming through. So these are coming across pretty much in chronological order as they arrived. From our first video, the first comment came from Julianne. Julianne said that she felt she would be ready to start a Zettelkasten in 4th grade. That was when her teacher gave the class an open-ended project to write a book on the planets of the solar system. Well, I couldn't resist asking her how that turned out. Well, it turned out to be quite an adventure in learning. Besides learning about the planets and producing her book, she typed her book and taught herself how to type from a book on typing. So that was also her first experience at learning something on her own from a book. So her vote is 4th grade. Brian is thinking perhaps a slightly older age. He's saying that when they can read and write solidly and when they start doing essays, certainly by high school, he said. He's our history PhD student, and he wishes he had a Zettelkasten as an undergraduate. He cites Shepper and Doto as his teachers who got him going on the Zettelkasten. So those are a couple of names that you can check out. Scott Shepper is where I learned the Zettelkasten. Jane is a university professor. Her son started with a Zettelkasten when he was working on his master's thesis. She says she wishes she had it at a much younger age, but she plans to teach it to her students who are in the age range of 18 to 22. So not children, young adults, and she feels that they're mostly new to any kind of formal note-taking system, and she's looking forward to giving them assignments that will help them get going on their Zettelkasten. So she's got this in the planning stages. Erin had some interesting thoughts. She's raising her soon-to-be 3-year-old daughter, so she's not teaching English anymore, but she feels that it would be a wonderful subject to have a Zettelkasten available for her students, in part because of the ability of a Zettelkasten to help you make connections and how powerful that is. She said she read somewhere that a Zettelkasten helps show you what you're interested in, and she thinks that's a phenomenal capability of a Zettelkasten. So thank you, Erin. Bev gets the award for the youngest Zettelkasten. Her oldest grandchild is starting school this year, and she plans to teach her how to use the Zettelkasten, even though she doesn't write yet. She's going to capture pictures that her granddaughter makes, write the story on the back of the picture that her granddaughter tells her is what the picture is about, and keep them for her as a memory box. Then, as her ability to read and write grows, she can take up writing the stories for herself as she adds new materials to her memory box. And she plans to teach her granddaughter how to use the effortless numbering system. Way to go, Bev. Daniel is another university professor who intends to teach his students the Zettelkasten. So bravo! It looks like we're going to be getting it at least at the university level into the school system. Now, Will is our high school teacher turned principal turned stay-at-home dad, and he is planning to teach the Zettelkasten to his children as they grow up, and he's feeling that a lot of the value right now is to do some pre-Zettelkasten work with the students to build up the kind of habits that will help them do well with the Zettelkasten. He cites 4 in particular: thought journaling, habit logging, simple poetic thought, and using a Lightner box. Now, isn't that fascinating? So our next video was specifically on the idea of trying to teach a Zettelkasten to children who are too young to write. And Bev, our grandmother, chimed in on this one as well. She likes the idea of using the slightly larger cards rather than sticking with the smaller 4x6, maybe a 5x7, 5x8. And she likes the idea of having the child choose where to place the card so that they are reviewing the cards that are already in the system. And both of her granddaughters use 5x7 journals to write in and to draw in. And she's going to use the idea of numbering the pages of the journal and dating them so that the daughters have a record that they can then incorporate into their Zettelkasten if they want to reference their journal entries in the Zettelkasten as they get older. She also talks about how larger papers could be folded and put into a Zettelkasten, and we know at least one adult who does that. Victoria Crowder, are you listening? One of her granddaughters has a camera and loves going around taking pictures. She is concerned, however, because the pictures come out on thermal paper and they might not last, so she's going to be taking camera pictures of those pictures so they will be preserved. And now that her oldest granddaughter is starting school, she's planning to keep some of her school papers folded and placed in the Zettelkasten. Now, Will also chimed in on the second video, and he asked some very interesting questions. I'm going to throw the first one out to you because I'm not convinced that I have the answers, so I'm going to look for you guys to answer his first question. He wants to know where a Zettelkasten is involved, if there are cusps of age. If so, what are they and why? Personally, I think that any age is a great age for a Zettelkasten, from drawing pictures all the way to adulthood. His second question, I'm going to have to read it because it relates to Adler, and you all know how fond I am of Adler's work. I keep my bib card on a ring handy so that I can use Adler's methods for how to read a book. And he mentions some points that Adler makes. So I'm going to read this. That I believe it was Adler who suggested that everything taught can be divided into 3 categories: concept, skills, and ideas. And he said, which of these should be the primary focus teaching Zettelkasten to children, and which is the easiest for them to grasp? Well, I'm not really sure, again, that I have an answer for a child, but I definitely believe that concepts need to be taught first for adults and need to be separate from techniques, because you can get so involved in the technique that you lose track of why you're doing it. And if you don't know why you're doing something, then the techniques aren't going to make much sense. But that's part of the challenge of the Zettelkasten, is that there's so much to try to learn at once. That's why I like the idea of starting with a child system where you're not trying to do all of the techniques. You're just starting with simple things like placing cards and choosing where the next card goes. And at some point, holding 2 cards together and saying, oh, do these 2 cards tell a story? And I think that's the kind of thing that can introduce the concepts and gently introduce the methods. What do you think? How would you answer those questions? And he's fascinated with Bev's idea of using the child's Zettelkasten as a memory box and wondering how that will affect a child to have their artwork become an artifact that lasts and stays with them. Bev responded by talking about her 2 granddaughters and how different they are in learning styles. And so she points out that each child is going to make their own personal use of a Zettelkasten just the same way that every adult would. So what do you think of the conversation that we've got going so far? Do you have ideas that you would like to add? This has been the most interactive of all of the series that I've ever had, and it's making me feel that I would love to have some kind of a Zoom call where we could all share ideas. So I'm toying with that idea. Comment if you'd like to participate in that as well, and maybe we can actually get something going. I love interacting, and I'm so happy that I'm getting this much feedback on this series. So join the conversation and we'll go forward with it from here for tomorrow's episode. See you then. Bye-bye.